Krell Vorthak adjusted his combat instructor badge with the smugness of someone who had never faced actual combat. The four-armed Zenthorian stood 7 feet tall, his purple-scaled hide gleaming under the training facility's harsh lights. His mandibles clicked with satisfaction as he surveyed the newest batch of recruits at the Galactic Combat Training Academy. Another group of soft shells, he muttered to his assistant, Nyx Warbler, a nervous three-eyed Glimmerian who constantly fidgeted with data tablets. Look at them, Nyx. Half of them will wash out before lunch. The recruits stood in formation, a mix of species from across the galaxy. Tall, graceful Elythians with their translucent skin, stocky Dramthons with their rock-like hides, a few Vesperian bug folk clicking their mandibles nervously. And then, there was her, the human. She stood barely 5.5 feet tall, with auburn hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. Her name tag read, Maya Torres, and she wore the standard recruit uniform that seemed almost comically oversized on her small frame. Her brown eyes held a quiet intensity that most of the other instructors had learned to respect. Most instructors, not Krell. "Oh, for the love of the void," Krell groaned, his voice carrying across the training floor like a rusty ship's horn. "They sent us another Deathworlder, as if one wasn't enough trouble." Maya's jaw tightened imperceptibly. She had heard the whispers, the jokes, the barely concealed contempt. Humans had only recently joined the Galactic Federation, and their reputation as Deathworlders preceded them everywhere. Krell strutted forward, his forearms gesticulating wildly. "Listen up, maggots. Today we begin pain tolerance training. Combat isn't just about technique. It's about enduring punishment and continuing to fight. Some of you," his eyes fixed on Maya, "come from soft worlds where the biggest threat is a rainstorm." A few of the alien recruits chuckled. The Dramthon recruit, Boric Stoneface, let out a rumbling laugh that sounded like grinding rocks. "Deathworld, right? What's so deadly about a little blue marble?" Maya remained silent, her hands clasped behind her back in perfect military posture. She had learned early in her Federation service that responding to taunts only made things worse. Krell activated the training simulator, and holographic opponents materialized around the recruits. "Your task is simple. Survive 5 minutes against these projections while enduring increasing levels of neural feedback. The feedback simulates real combat pain without permanent damage." The Zenthorian's mandibles spread in what his species considered a grin. "We'll start easy. Level 3 intensity." The holographic attackers sprang into action. Energy blasts, plasma swords, and projectile weapons filled the air. The recruits scattered, some diving for cover, others standing their ground. As they were struck by the simulated attacks, they cried out in genuine pain. The neural feedback was no joke. Boric Stoneface lived up to his name, grunting as a plasma bolt caught him in the shoulder but continuing to fight. The Elythian recruit, Lyra Mistdancer, moved with fluid grace, avoiding most attacks but gasping when an energy blade grazed her arm. Maya took a different approach entirely. She didn't dodge, didn't weave, didn't seek cover. She walked forward methodically, allowing the holographic weapons to strike her repeatedly. Each hit sent waves of neural pain through her system, but her expression remained unchanged. She systematically dismantled each opponent with brutal efficiency. "Impossible," whispered Nyx Warbler, his 3 eyes blinking in rapid succession. "The pain levels should be incapacitating her." Krell's smugness faltered for just a moment. "Increase intensity to level 6, he barked. The neural feedback doubled. Several recruits collapsed, writhing on the ground. The Vesperian bug folk began clicking in distress and retreated to the edges of the training area. Even Boric Stoneface stumbled, his rocky hide unable to shield him from the simulated agony. Maya continued her methodical advance. A holographic Zenthorian warrior materialized directly in front of her, swinging a massive warhammer. The weapon connected with her ribs, and the neural feedback should have sent her sprawling. Instead, she grabbed the holographic weapon, yanked the warrior forward, and delivered a crushing blow to its throat projection. "This is ridiculous," Krell snarled, all pretense of professionalism abandoned. "Level 9 intensity," Nick's Warbler's translator squeaked in protest. "Sir, Level 9 is beyond recommended safety parameters. The pain simulation at that level can cause psychological trauma in most species." "Did I ask for your opinion, Three Eyes?" Krell snapped. His four hands danced over the control panel with vindictive precision. The training area became a nightmare. The remaining standing recruits collapsed within seconds, their nervous systems overwhelmed by the artificial agony. Even the spectating instructors winced sympathetically. Maya Torres stood alone in the center of the carnage, surrounded by defeated holographic enemies and writhing fellow recruits. Blood trickled from her nose, the only sign that the neural feedback was affecting her at all. She turned to face Krell with those same quiet, intense brown eyes. "Simulation complete," she said, in a voice steady as granite. "Shall I continue, sir?" The training facility fell silent, except for the groans of recovering recruits. Krell's purple scales had shifted to a darker hue, indicating extreme agitation in his species. His mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of barely controlled rage. "You think you're special, don't you, Deathworlder?" Krell's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. "You think surviving some rain and wild animals makes you tough?" Maya maintained her military posture. "No, sir. I think surviving makes me alive." The simple statement hung in the air like a challenge. Several of the other instructors exchanged glances. Commander Thex Ironwill, a respected Dramthon veteran who oversaw the entire program, stepped forward from the observation deck. "Instructor Vorthak, perhaps we should move on to the next exercise," Thex rumbled diplomatically. "No!" Krell's voice cracked like a whip. "I want to see exactly how tough this little Deathworlder thinks she is." He stalked toward Maya, his 7-foot frame towering over her. "Let's try a different kind of pain tolerance test. Something more personal." Without warning, Krell's primary right arm shot out, his scaled fist aimed directly at Maya's face. It wasn't a training exercise, wasn't simulated, wasn't sanctioned. It was pure, vindictive assault. The punch never landed. Maya's hand moved faster than most of the observers could track, intercepting Krell's wrist mid-swing. Her fingers, seemingly so small and fragile compared to his thick scales, clamped down with hydraulic precision. The sound that followed would haunt the training facility for months to come. Crack! Krell's wrist bone snapped with the sharp finality of a tree branch breaking in a storm. The Zenthorian's roar of pain echoed off the reinforced walls, a sound that registered on frequencies most species couldn't even hear. But Maya wasn't finished. Her free hand shot upward, palm first, connecting with Krell's mandibles. The impact drove his head backward with such force that his feet left the ground. He crashed into the control panel behind him, sparks flying as expensive equipment shorted out under his weight. The entire sequence took less than 2 seconds. Krell slumped against the destroyed console, his broken wrist cradled against his chest, his mandibles visibly cracked and leaking purple blood. His eyes, once filled with arrogant superiority, now held something new: fear. Maya stood where she had been, her posture unchanged, her expression calm. She looked down at the fallen instructor with the same quiet intensity she had maintained throughout the entire encounter. "Pain tolerance lesson complete, sir," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the stunned silence. "I believe I passed." Commander Thex stepped into the training area, his heavy footfalls the only sound in the facility. The other recruits, those who had recovered enough to stand, watched in amazement. None of them had ever seen an instructor taken down so quickly, so completely. "Medical team to Training Bay 7. Thex spoke into his comm unit, his gravelly voice betraying no emotion. "Instructor injury requiring immediate attention." As the medical team arrived and began tending to Krell's wounds, Maya remained at attention. She answered the medic's questions with military precision, explaining that Instructor Vorthak had accidentally impacted her defensive position during a training demonstration. The medics, all experienced in reading between the lines of military incidents, nodded knowingly and continued their work. Nick's warbler approached Maya cautiously, his 3 eyes darting between her and the medical team. "Recruit Torres, are you injured?" Maya touched the trickle of blood under her nose, wiping it away with the back of her hand. "Minor neural feedback response, sir. Nothing requiring medical attention." "But the pain levels." Nix's voice trailed off as he consulted his data tablet. "The readings show you endured neural feedback equivalent to having your limbs slowly crushed. How did you?" "I grew up on Earth, sir," Maya replied simply. "We call Tuesday what most species call catastrophic trauma." Commander Thex approached, his expression unreadable. "Recruit Torres, report to my office in 1 hour. We need to discuss your training modifications." "Yes, sir." As the medical team carried Krell away on a hover stretcher, his consciousness flickering in and out, Maya finally allowed herself a small smile. It wasn't cruel or vindictive. It was the quiet satisfaction of someone who had been underestimated their entire life and had grown very, very tired of proving people wrong. The other recruits slowly gathered around her, their earlier dismissiveness replaced by awed respect. Borik's stone face, his rocky hide still showing scorch marks from the training simulation, shook his massive head in amazement. "Deathworld girl," he rumbled, using the term with newfound respect rather than mockery. "Remind me never to make you angry." Lyra Mistdancer, the graceful Elythian, approached with fluid steps. "Maya, right?" "I have to ask, was that really self-defense?" Maya's brown eyes held a glint of humor. "He swung first. I just finished the conversation." The Vesperian recruit, Zik Buzzwing, clicked his mandibles in what his species considered laughter. "In my culture, we have a saying, never strike what you cannot kill. I think Instructor Vorthak just learned that lesson." As the group began to disperse, Maya remained in the training area, running through combat forms with methodical precision. The neural feedback from the earlier simulation had actually been quite painful, despite her stoic demeanor. Earth's dangers had taught humanity to function through pain, but that didn't mean they enjoyed it. Word of the incident spread through the academy like wildfire. Within hours, every instructor, recruit, and support staff member knew that the human Deathworlder had put the academy's most aggressive combat instructor in medical bay with a casual defensive response. The reactions were mixed. Some instructors, particularly those who had served with humans before, nodded knowingly. Others, who still subscribed to the soft Deathworld theory, began reassessing their assumptions with alarming speed. But in the medical bay, as neural regenerators worked to repair his shattered wrist and mandibles, Krell Vorthak was learning a lesson that would reshape his understanding of the galaxy. The small, quiet human he had dismissed as weak had not only endured pain levels that would incapacitate most species, she had done so while maintaining perfect combat effectiveness. And when he had finally pushed too far, when he had crossed the line from instruction to assault, she had responded with the kind of brutal efficiency that only came from surviving on a world where everything was trying to kill you from birth. The medical technician, a gentle Andromedan with gossamer wings, finished calibrating the bone regenerator. "You're fortunate, Instructor Vorthak. The human could have shattered every bone in your arm if she had wanted to. The force readings suggest she was being remarkably restrained." Krell's eyes widened. Restrained? That devastating response had been her holding back? As consciousness faded under the influence of pain medication, Krell Vorthak had his final coherent thought of the day. Maybe, just maybe, he had seriously underestimated exactly what it meant to be from a death world. In the Academy's administrative offices, Commander Thex was having a very different conversation with Maya Torres. The massive Dramthon sat behind his desk, reviewing her service record with increasing interest. "Recruit Torres, your file makes for fascinating reading," he rumbled, his voice like distant thunder. "Earth. Gravity 1.2 times galactic standard. Atmospheric pressure that would crush most species. predators that hunt for sport rather than sustenance, weather patterns that can level cities. Maya sat at attention, her hands folded in her lap. Yes, sir. And you grew up there, not in a protective dome, not in a filtered environment. You lived on the surface, exposed to all of it. Born and raised in Colorado, sir. Rocky Mountains. We considered it a mild climate zone. Thex leaned back in his chair, the reinforced furniture creaking under his weight. Mild. Right. He touched his comm unit. Computer, display Earth environmental statistics. The holographic display filled with data that made even the seasoned Dramthon commander wince. Temperature variations that spanned over 100 degrees. Storms that could generate wind speeds exceeding most spacecraft velocities. Seismic activity that regularly reshaped the landscape. And this, Thex gestured at Maya, is what that environment produces. I'm nothing special, sir, just human. The commander's laugh sounded like an avalanche. Just human. Recruit Torres, I've served with humans before. I know exactly how dangerous just human can be. He stood, his massive frame casting a shadow across the office. Your training regimen is being modified immediately. Standard Federation combat protocols are clearly inadequate for someone of your background. Sir, you'll be training with our advanced combat instructors, species that specialize in warfare, not just fitness training. Think you can handle that? Maya's smile was subtle but unmistakable. I'd welcome the challenge, sir. As she left the commander's office, Maya reflected on the day's events. The incident with Krell had been unfortunate, but perhaps necessary. The galaxy was still learning what humans were capable of, still adjusting to the reality of a species that had evolved in conditions most civilizations would consider uninhabitable. She thought of her home in Colorado, of winter mornings when the temperature dropped to levels that would freeze most alien blood solid, of summer hikes through terrain that would challenge military vehicles, of growing up in an environment where a moment's inattention could mean death from any of 1,000 different sources. Earth wasn't just a death world. It was a forge, and humans were what it produced. The next morning would bring new challenges, new instructors who thought they understood what it meant to fight someone from the third planet of an unremarkable star system. They would learn, as Krell had learned, that underestimating a human was the kind of mistake you only made once. 3 days after the Krell incident, Maya Torres found herself standing in Advanced Combat Bay 12, facing an entirely different class of instructor. Gone were the fitness trainers and basic combat specialists. These were warriors from species bred for battle. Master Sergeant Vex Skullcrusher stood 8 feet tall, his obsidian-black exoskeleton gleaming under the combat bay lights. The Nethrite warrior's forearms each ended in razor-sharp claws that could slice through reinforced steel. His species had evolved from apex predators on a world where diplomacy meant choosing which enemy to kill first. Beside him stood Captain Mora Bloodwind, a sleek Varkonian assassin whose silver fur rippled with barely contained energy. Her people were known throughout the galaxy for their speed, cunning, and complete lack of mercy in combat situations. She moved with the fluid grace of someone who could kill you 17 different ways before you realized you were in danger. The third instructor made Maya pause. Lieutenant Colonel Rex Manning was human. Tall, scarred, with graying hair and eyes that had seen too much combat. His presence here meant the Federation was taking her training very seriously indeed. So, Vex's voice rumbled like grinding stone, you are the Deathworlder who broke Instructor Vorthak. Maya maintained her parade rest position. I defended myself against an unprovoked assault, Master Sergeant. Mora Bloodwind circled her with predatory grace, studying Maya like a scientist examining an interesting specimen. The medical reports were fascinating. Krell's injuries suggested impact force equivalent to being struck by a hover transport. Yet you show no signs of enhanced cybernetics or genetic modification. Standard human anatomy, Captain. Rex Manning stepped forward, his weathered face showing the first hint of a smile Maya had seen from any instructor. Torres, right? Colorado mountain girl? Yes, sir. Grew up near Vale. Thought so. I'm from Montana myself. Big sky country. His expression grew serious. These two want to test you properly, not the amateur hour garbage Krell was peddling. Real combat assessment. Vex's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Human Manning speaks truth. We shall discover if your reputation is earned or merely fortunate circumstance. The Nethrite warrior activated the advanced combat simulator, and the training bay transformed. Gone were the simple holographic opponents from basic training. The environment shifted to resemble an urban battlefield, complete with rubble, smoke, and the acrid smell of burnt plasma. Scenario parameters, Mora announced, her silver fur standing on end as her combat instincts engaged. Hostile occupation force, civilians trapped. Primary objective, neutralize all threats and extract non-combatants. Secondary objective, survive. Maya studied the simulated battlefield. Holographic enemies moved with tactical precision between buildings. Their equipment and formations suggested professional military rather than the basic training dummies she was accustomed to. Difficulty level? She asked. Vex's laugh sounded like an avalanche. There is no difficulty level, Deathworlder. This is combat simulation used to train our elite forces. Failure rate approaches 90%. And that's for species specifically bred for warfare, Mora added, her ears twitching as she analyzed the battlefield layout. Not soft mammals from gravity wells. Rex Manning remained silent, but his expression suggested he was looking forward to seeing his fellow human in action. Rules of engagement? Maya inquired, checking her simulated weapon systems. Survive. Everything else is optional, Vex replied. The simulation began. Maya's approach differed dramatically from standard military doctrine. Where most species would establish overwatch positions and advance methodically, she did something that made all three instructors lean forward in surprise. She walked directly into the kill zone. Plasma bolts seared the air around her as enemy forces opened fire. Instead of seeking cover, Maya analyzed the firing patterns, calculating angles and timing with the kind of spatial awareness that came from navigating avalanche zones and predator territories. She moved through the crossfire like water flowing around stones. Impossible, Mora whispered, her enhanced senses tracking Maya's movements. She should be dead 12 times over. The first group of holographic soldiers never saw her coming. Maya appeared among them like a ghost, her simulated rifle firing with mechanical precision. Each shot found its target, each movement flowed into the next with deadly efficiency. But the advanced simulation adapted. The remaining enemies coordinated their attacks, using suppression fire and flanking maneuvers that would challenge veteran warriors. Explosive. Rounds detonated around Maya's position, filling the air with shrapnel and concussive force. She absorbed the impacts and kept moving. Neural feedback is registering massive trauma responses, Rex observed, monitoring the readouts. She should be incapacitated. Vex's obsidian claws scraped against the control panel. Perhaps the equipment malfunctions. No malfunction. Mora's enhanced hearing picked up something the others missed. Listen carefully. Through the sounds of simulated combat, they could hear Maya humming. A soft, melodic tune that seemed completely at odds with the chaos surrounding her. Is she enjoying this? Vex asked, his warrior's pride somewhat offended. Maya reached the civilian extraction point, where holographic non-combatants cowered behind makeshift barriers. The simulation's enemy forces had positioned themselves to make rescue impossible without massive casualties. Standard doctrine called for negotiation or siege tactics. Maya chose a third option. She began systematically hunting the enemy forces through the urban environment, moving from building to building with the patience of someone who had tracked mountain lions through blizzards. Each engagement was brief, decisive, and completely one-sided. The instructors watched in growing amazement as Maya turned what should have been a defensive scenario into an offensive slaughter. She fights like a Nethrite, Vex admitted grudgingly, but with human unpredictability. No, Mora corrected, her predatory instincts recognizing something deeper. She fights like something that has been hunted its entire life and learned to become the hunter. 20 minutes later, the simulation ended. Every enemy force eliminated. All civilians extracted. 0 friendly casualties. Maya emerged from the combat zone with her uniform slightly scorched but otherwise unharmed. She approached the instructor station and came to attention. "Simulation complete, sir. All objectives achieved." Silence filled the training bay. The 3 instructors exchanged glances that spoke volumes about their reassessment of human capabilities. Rex Manning was the first to speak. "Torres, that was the most efficient combat performance I've witnessed in 20 years of military service. How do you feel?" Maya considered the question seriously. "Refreshed, sir. The exercise was invigorating." Vex's mandibles clicked rapidly, indicating extreme agitation. Invigorating. She describes combat simulation that defeats 9 of 10 elite warriors as invigorating. Mora stepped closer, studying Maya with renewed interest. The medical scanners show elevated adrenaline, increased heart rate, and enhanced reflexes, but your stress indicators are actually lower than when you started. "Combat relaxes me, Captain. Growing up in Colorado, you learn that dangerous situations require calm thinking. Panic gets you killed." "By what exactly?" Vex demanded. "Your world cannot be as perilous as reported." Maya's smile held no humor. "Master Sergeant, would you like a brief overview of Earth wildlife?" Without waiting for an answer, she began reciting facts with the casual tone of someone discussing the weather. Grizzly bears, 800 pounds of muscle and claws, capable of running 35 miles per hour uphill. Mountain lions, ambush predators that can leap 40 feet horizontally and kill prey 3 times their size. Rattlesnakes with venom that liquefies blood. Black widow spiders whose bite causes systemic paralysis. She paused, noting the increasingly concerned expressions of her alien instructors. "That's just Colorado. Earth also has saltwater crocodiles, polar bears, great white sharks, and several species of large cats that consider humans their preferred prey." Vex's claws scraped nervously against his exoskeleton. "And humans share territory with these creatures? We camp in it, Master Sergeant, for recreation." Mora's ears flattened against her skull. "Humans voluntarily enter predator territory for enjoyment. Every weekend during hunting season, my family owns a cabin in bear country. We consider it peaceful." Rex Manning's grin widened. "Tell them about winter sports, Torres." Maya's eyes lit up with genuine enthusiasm. "Oh, skiing is wonderful. You strap narrow boards to your feet and launch yourself down mountainsides at speeds exceeding 60 miles per hour, weaving between trees and over cliff faces. Very relaxing." "Relaxing," Vex repeated faintly. "Then there's rock climbing, where you scale vertical cliff faces hundreds of feet above ground using only your fingertips and determination. Whitewater rafting through Class 5 rapids that can crush bones and drown you in seconds. Base jumping, where you leap off cliffs wearing fabric wings and pray they deploy correctly." The 3 instructors stared at her in dawning horror. "These are recreational activities?" Mora asked weakly. "Popular vacation destinations. Children begin learning these skills around age 5. "By the void," Vex muttered. "No wonder you fight without fear. Your recreation exceeds most species' military training." Rex Manning clapped Maya on the shoulder with obvious pride. "That's what I've been trying to tell Command. Humans aren't just tough because of high gravity and atmospheric pressure. We're tough because our idea of fun would terrify most galactic civilizations." Captain Mora began pacing, her predatory instincts struggling to process this information. "This explains the incident with Instructor Vorthak. You did not perceive him as a serious threat. He telegraphed his intentions, moved slowly, and had no backup plan," Maya confirmed. "Basic mistakes that would get you killed on Earth." "What would constitute a serious threat to you?" Vex asked, morbid curiosity overcoming his warrior's pride. Maya considered the question carefully. "Something faster than a mountain lion, stronger than a grizzly bear, more venomous than a coral snake and smarter than a human. Preferably all at once. Such creatures exist, Mora whispered. Not on Earth. That's why I joined the Federation. I was hoping to find some real challenges out here among the stars. The training bay fell silent again as the implications sank in. Maya Torres hadn't just survived the combat simulation. She had found it relaxing compared to her normal existence. The incident with Krell wasn't an anomaly or lucky break. It was a human operating at about 10% of her actual capabilities. Rex Manning activated his comm unit. Command, this is Colonel Manning. We need to completely restructure the human training protocols. Current assessments are inadequate by several orders of magnitude. Commander Thex's gravelly voice crackled through the speakers. Elaborate, Colonel. Sir, we've been training humans like they're standard Federation species. That's like using starfighter tactics to pilot a dreadnought. The capabilities don't match the approach. Recommendations? Rex looked at Maya, who maintained her parade rest position despite being the subject of conversation. Humans should be classified as elite forces from day one. Their baseline capabilities exceed our advanced combat standards. Standard training is actually boring them. Boring them? Maya stepped forward. If I may, Commander Thex, the current training regimen is less challenging than my high school physical education classes. A long pause filled the comm channel. When Thex spoke again, his voice carried a note of resignation mixed with awe. How much more challenging were your high school classes, Recruit Torres? We had to swim a mile in mountain lake water, climb a 50-foot rope, and run 5 miles through forest terrain. Daily. In winter, we added cross-country skiing and ice climbing to build character. Character building, Thex repeated slowly. Right. Colonel Manning, implement Protocol 7 immediately. Protocol 7, sir. Rex sounded surprised. That's reserved for species with combat-enhanced physiology. Exactly. And apparently, humans qualify. As the communication ended, Maya found herself facing 3 instructors who now viewed her with a mixture of respect, fear, and professional interest. Vex straightened to his full 8-foot height. Deathworlder Torres, it appears we have underestimated your people significantly. Most species do, Master Sergeant. We're used to it. Mora stepped forward, her silver fur now lying flat with acceptance rather than aggression. I owe you an apology. I assumed you were another soft-world species requiring special accommodation. No offense taken, Captain. Earth looks peaceful from orbit. And up close? Vex inquired. Maya's smile returned, warm and genuine. Up close, it's the most beautiful death trap in the galaxy. Every sunrise could be your last. Every step could trigger an avalanche. Every shadow might hide something that wants to eat you. It's home. Rex Manning nodded approvingly. That's why humans make such good soldiers, diplomats, and explorers. We've been living on nightmare difficulty since we climbed down from the trees. Everything else seems manageable by comparison. The incident with Instructor Vorthak makes perfect sense now, Mora observed. He represented no significant threat by your standards. He was slow, predictable, and emotionally compromised, Maya confirmed. In bear country, those traits get you eaten. I simply applied appropriate response protocols. Vex's mandibles clicked in what Maya was learning to recognize as Nethrite laughter. Appropriate response protocols. You shattered his bones with appropriate response protocols. I used minimal force necessary to neutralize the threat. If I had wanted to seriously injure him, the conversation would have been very different. The 3 instructors exchanged another round of significant glances. The implication was clear. Maya's devastating response to Krell had been her showing restraint. Protocol 7 begins tomorrow, Rex announced. You'll be training with our most elite units. Think you're ready for that? Maya's brown eyes held that same quiet intensity they had shown during her first day. I've been ready my whole life, sir. Earth made sure of that. As the training session concluded, word of Maya's performance spread through the academy faster than a solar flare. By evening, every instructor, administrator, and support staff member knew that the human Deathworlder had not only dominated the elite combat simulation, but had found it relaxing. Krell Vorthak, still recovering in medical bay, received updates from visiting instructors with growing unease. The small human who had broken his bones with casual efficiency was apparently just getting started. But Maya Torres, sitting in her quarters and video calling her family back in Colorado, seemed completely unaware of the stir she was causing. She chatted with her parents about mountain hiking trails and upcoming ski season, describing her Federation training as pretty easy so far. Her younger brother Jake, a college student studying to become a park ranger, laughed at her complaints. "Sounds like you need more challenging hobbies, sis. Maybe try that new base jumping spot near Aspen." "After I finish here," Maya promised. "The Federation might have some interesting planets to explore." As the call ended, Maya reflected on her journey so far. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, but it was also surprisingly fragile. Species that had never known real danger, never faced existential threats, never learned that survival required constant vigilance and adaptation. Earth had been a harsh teacher, but an effective one. Every human carried within them the distilled wisdom of a world that had spent 4 billion years trying to kill everything that lived on it. They were, in the truest sense, children of chaos who had learned to thrive in conditions that would break most civilizations. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new instructors who thought they understood what it meant to be human. They would learn, as so many before them, that underestimating a species forged in Earth's crucible was a mistake that reshaped your understanding of what was possible. Maya Torres smiled as she prepared for sleep, dreaming of home mountains and the adventures that awaited among the stars. The galaxy was about to discover what humanity really meant when they called themselves survivors. And somewhere in the Academy's medical bay, Krell Vorthak was learning that karma, like Earth itself, had a way of teaching lessons you never forgot.